Hi, this is Charles from White Lies, and you're listening to VIC Radio.
Can you fill me in on what happened with you and the two other guys between the first album and this one?
Yeah, for sure. I guess after the release of our first record, we were sort of catapulted around the world, and we were really touring solid for about 15 months, something like that. We pretty much did the entire globe 2 or 3 times, going as far afield as Australia and Japan a few times, obviously working a lot in the States. We did a tour with Kings of Leon most recently here, hitting a lot of spots in the Midwest, which was really exciting. And then in February last year, we finished off that tour really with a couple of shows in Russia and Poland, and then we set aside some time to get going on making an album, or at least having a go. And I would go to Harry, our frontman's house, his parents' house actually. I would turn up there at sort of 10 in the morning, and we'd write songs until sort of 7 in the evening. And we did this for about 5 weeks, every weekday. We had our little routine, and then the album was ready. And took me to go into the proper recording studio, and we took about a week's break, and then hooked up with Alan Moulder, the producer, and a guy called Max Dingle, who produced our first record, and we went into their studio in London, and 6 weeks later, and it was all recorded and finished.
You don't see concept albums, I think, anymore, and the first album, to me at least, was definitely a concept album. I think that's what you guys were going for. I wouldn't say that the second one is a concept album, but maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, we've never gone out and, really thought about tying every song, in terms of the theme, together. It's just worked out that way. I think in both cases to a certain degree, perhaps more obviously, as you say on the first record. Mm-hmm. But I think for a band to even be considering the format of an album as the archetypal way that music should be made these days is, it's a rare thing.
Exactly.
And as you said, with this kind of iTunes culture, you and me are, two people of very little that still have this nostalgia for the aesthetics of holding a physical album in your hand and listening to the whole thing, as it should be. Right. There's a lot of acts, some of our biggest acts in the world are working very much to the format of one track at a time, and then when you have enough singles, you put a little bit extra on, and you put it out as an album. Mm-hmm. So I think to even be working, towards an album is a fairly conceptual thing in the first place. But I think with this record, Ritual, there's definitely a lot of songs about love in different ways. Mm-hmm. About what love is, and also a few songs dealing with the other distractions and I guess hopes in some way that people latch onto in life, to give themselves a little bit more of a purpose, whether that's work, religion, power, money, anything like that. So in some degree, we used the title Ritual to sum up as best we could what we thought the album was really trying to say, but I can understand why you maybe feel, there's a stronger correlation between the songs on the first record.
Can you just explain sort of the album title a little bit more, what Ritual is all about?
Well, there's various different sort of rituals described, I suppose, loosely on the record, and the idea of naming the record that is that they are, in my opinion, they all tie in together as the same thing. They're all different distractions, different ways of killing time, and different ways of giving your life and your daily routine some kind of purpose. Whether it's a song like Strangers, which is about really a one-night stand, and what's involved, the feelings, the emotions, the technicalities involved in making that kind of I don't know, disposable commitment to someone, and in some ways arguing if that is very different from a long-term relationship, other than the length. I mean, you could argue that initial spark you might feel between two people, and to a certain degree the physical attraction and the passion or whatever that you might have with someone just in in one evening, is just a compressed and very explosive sort of culmination of the feelings that may be extended if you were to continue seeing them for a long time. And that song really deals with the I suppose the problems in accepting that, and realizing that perhaps it is unnatural for us to be in these kind of in a conventional relationship. It's we were sort of put on this, we would come into this world alone, and we go out alone, and it's strange that people have this fixation on finding another person to be with. Why can't it be two or three people? And it's a strange thing. Whereas on the other hand, a song like Turn the Bells is really was inspired by a trip that I took in January. On January 2010, I went to Tibet for a month, and experienced some very, very different religious practices there, things that I would have never really imagined. I think the perception of Buddhism in the Western world is so far away from what it really is, and we sort of pick and choose which bits we like. We think, oh well, they're into meditation, and they're into positive thinking, positive thought. Okay, we'll take that bit and call it Buddhism. But there's really a lot more to it than that, and some quite ancient and quite archaic practices that would seem very, very different and shocking to you and me. And I mean, there's other songs on the record that are focusing on these kind of things, and the idea is that it's really it's tying them all together, and just questioning if any of those distractions, if any of those activities that we take in our life and things that we pursue are any more important than any of the other ones.
I forget where I heard this, but I heard your music described once as dark but uplifting. It's clearly you have a sound that is carried over from your first record and through your work, the very distinctive sound. So when my iPod's on shuffle, I know exactly. I know most of the older songs much better now, but I know exactly when it's you guys.
Yeah.
So is that what you aim for, that dark but uplifting thing?
I would say, the sound that we come up with when we're writing is it's obviously very personal, and it just seems to happen. We don't really aim for a certain sound. In terms of the effect that we're trying to create with the music, that's a tricky one, really, because music does so many different things to so many people. But in response to people saying it's dark but uplifting, I think what I take from that is that at least it's getting a very strong emotional response in people. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing to remember is that emotions are all made up of the same chemical, and even feeling very negative ones can be hugely uplifting, because emotions are addictive, and that's why we fall in love, because we get addicted to the feeling of love. We get addicted to having that chemical rush into our bloodstream. And that's why people also people become really miserable, because they get addicted to feeling that emotion of feeling sorry for themselves. And so I think the emotions that we're hopefully creating in people when they think about our songs and listen to our songs are going to give them a little kick, going to give them a rush, even if they're not the kind of emotion that makes you run around the room feeling ecstatic and wanting to dance necessarily.
Why don't we talk about influences? I'm interested to know if you guys had any specific musical influences on you as a band.
We all have such a huge library now of music that we're constantly dipping into that to really look at influences is a real maze. But I would say a couple of significant things, other than developing quite a love for certain electronic music. Knowing that we were going to be making the album with Alan Moulder, Harry and I sort of thought, you know what, Nine Inch Nails are a band that we know he really made his name with, and we actually are very unfamiliar with their work, so we ought to check that out. And we got really into their album, The Fragile, and that was, for a production point of view, it just sounds mind-blowing, one of the best-sounding records ever, and that was pretty inspirational to kind of hear that and think, okay, well, this is the guy that's going to be helping us.
Yeah.
Aside from that, every song, I hear different things. Peace and Quiet is one of our favourites, and that, I suppose, in some ways, shows our love for bands like Talk Talk, especially sort of their Colour of Spring album and onwards. Equally, the last song on the album, Come Down, we were aiming towards a kind of, I don't know, in a way it's such a simple song, so it's a kind of Neil Young meets Tears for Fears kind of thing. But we never really focused too much on exactly what we're trying to do. We try to just let it happen as much as possible. I know that sounds a little bit hippie-ish, but at this point in our artistic and creative career, we're sort of blind in some ways. We're just following our creative instinct, and we're happy to do that and excited to see where it goes. And I think the more you work and the more albums you make, that creative instinct starts to get more informed and turn into, creative intelligence, and then you actually always know what you're doing, and you can actually, really sit down and plan things out, and that's an exciting prospect too. But I think it's really important that we indulge ourselves and enjoy this, early period in our career where we're just pretty much going with the wind.
I want to talk about the cover art for a second.
Okay.
Because clearly it's a real photograph, not photoshopped or anything.
No, they're real twins.
The color, whatever. But clearly they're real twins. So can you tell me the story behind the twins and what it has to do with the album itself and what it was like, picking them out or something? I don't know how much you had to hand in it, but.
Well, we have enough involvement in the artwork. Unfortunately, none of us are really equipped enough to make the artwork ourselves. That would be ideal. I have to be honest, in terms of this album cover, I think it works best as a powerful image. It's we saw a photo of another pair of twins from just a stock image on a huge page of ideas, and that was kind of the one that jumped out at us, and we thought, okay, well, that's kind of interesting. We like the idea of this kind of duality in some ways, where we're talking about these rituals, that people are going through, and you feel that on the one hand they're blindly walking through life, believing perhaps in certain things that they haven't put much thought in, and when it comes to things like relationships and love, how much have they really thought about what it is that's involved in what they're doing. And then there's this other side, almost like a twin, that's possibly a little bit more enlightened and is at the back of your mind is always going, hang on, this is what exactly am I doing here? Do I really believe in all this? So I guess it worked on that level. But if I'm entirely honest, it's not my favorite cover art ever. But I think at this day and age, going back to what we were talking about earlier, with there being a lot less attachment to the album format than there was 10-15 years ago, it's so important to have an image on the front of your record sleeve that's going to draw people in and make them consider the whole album as a complete piece of work. So far it's working really well for us anyway. The twins we've never met. We cast them. There were about 4 or 5 different sets of twins we saw, and they just looked the best. I think they're from maybe just outside of London. don't think they've done much before this, but I can't imagine the attention they're probably getting right now. Anyway.
Let's just talk about the short film. You guys shot it in England?
Yeah, it was shot in a printing factory in southeast London somewhere. Yeah.
And I really liked it because actually it hits both of my top interests. I work for this radio station, but I'm also studying film in school. So.
All right. Well, I mean, it's my sort of secret second passion film, really.
Yeah. So I was really drawn to that, especially because it was like it is a short film. It has the plot and story and beautiful shots, but then it's also got the music video component to it.
Yeah.
And very much a traditional music video that takes breaks and is extended, and it's I guess this is all leading up to the question, why the choice of specifically those 3 songs. They are favorites of mine on the album, but I started to think as it was sort of wrapping up and I wanted more. I said, why not do the whole album? So why the choice of the 3 songs?
I think there was probably an idea originally to do the whole album, but we were performing those songs and acting the whole day, and it was I can't really imagine doing any more than we did in the end. But I think we picked the songs that were we felt would best kind of go with the visuals. Really, is what you got to think about.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew it was going to be effectively a sort of postmodern advert for the record, so we obviously wanted to pick the tracks that we thought people would be encouraged to buy the record from listening to. But really, it was an idea from the record label that we had a fair bit of involvement in, and I think we're happy with it. It's turned out really well, and it's always nice to get an opportunity to do something a little different from conventional band activities.
Definitely.
So it was good fun.